All right, if you're a developer, you know this feeling all too well. You've built something awesome, but it's stuck on your machine, trapped on local host, basically an island completely cut off from the rest of the web. Today, we're looking at a tool that's designed to build a bridge from that island to the world, and it promises to do it in seconds. We're talking about InstaTunnel.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about the problem, what I like to call the localhost prison. Then we'll see how InstaTunnel builds that bridge out. After that, we'll get into its zero-config philosophy, dig into some power user features, get a dose of reality with some troubleshooting, and then wrap it all up with a final showdown against the competition.
Okay, let's set the scene. Modern web development, it's all about services talking to other services, right? APIs, webhooks, you name it. But the place where we actually build our stuff, our local machine, our local host, it's designed to be a totally isolated sandbox. And that right there, that creates a huge conflict.
This question. This is the one that gives developers nightmares. You've just written the perfect code to handle a payment notification from Stripe. But how do you test it? Stripe servers live out on the public internet, and they have absolutely no way to reach your app running on your laptop. You're completely stuck, flying blind until you push your code to a live server.
The solution to this whole mess is a technique called local host tunneling. And according to our source material, this isn't just some nice to have anymore. They call it a foundational infrastructure requirement for how we build things today. It's how you test those webhooks, it's how you share a quick demo with a client, and it's how you collaborate without having to go through the whole song and dance of a full deployment.
So how does InstaTunnel actually build this magical bridge from the open internet all the way back to your machine? It sounds pretty complicated, but the way it works is actually, well, it's surprisingly clever.
It really just comes down to these 3 simple steps. First, and this is the key part, your computer makes an outbound connection to InstaTunnel's network. That's so important because most firewalls are totally fine with traffic going out. Then their network hands you back a public URL that anyone can visit. And finally, any request that hits that URL gets securely funneled right back down that tunnel to your local app. Simple as that.
And this setup, this architecture, it just erases some major headaches. Because that connection is outbound, you don't have to mess with your router or try to get around your company's firewall. The fact that it's a global network means latency stays low for anyone you share the link with, no matter where they are. And you get automatic HTTPS, which means no more of those awkward browser security warnings when you're trying to show something to a client.
This brings us right to the heart of InstaTunnel's whole reason for being, what they call the zero configuration philosophy. The big idea is to get rid of what our sources call operational fatigue. All that boring, tedious setup that just gets in the way of actually writing code.
And they are not kidding around. For most of what you'll do, this is it. This is the entire command, just 2 letters.
Now, whether you type the full InstaTunnel command or just it, the real magic is what it does next. If you run it without telling it what to do, it just looks around. It scans for common development ports, like 3,000 for a React app or 8,000 for a Python server, and it just hooks right in.
And this, right here, is the perfect example of that zero-config payoff. In one single move, it finds your app, it creates the secure tunnel, gives you a public URL, and, this is just a fantastic little touch, it automatically copies that URL straight to your clipboard. No more highlighting, no copy-paste fumbling, you just run the command and you're ready to share.
Okay, so zero config is awesome for getting up and running in a flash. But let's be real, professional workflows often need a bit more control. And that's where InstaTunnel's power user features come in. It's got some serious muscle under the hood.
Now this is a big one. Instead of getting a new random URL every single time, you can use the -name flag to lock in a custom subdomain. This is absolutely huge for client demos where you want a clean, professional-looking URL. And it's pretty much essential for webhooks, because you can set it one time in your Stripe or GitHub settings and it stays the same, even if you restart the tunnel.
And that's not all. You can slap password protection on your tunnel right from the command line, which is perfect for shielding work in progress. You can even tunnel raw TCP traffic, think accessing a database on your machine, or even SSHing into it from somewhere else. Plus, their web dashboard is a lifesaver for debugging, letting you inspect and even replay webhook requests.
But hey, let's be honest, no tool is perfect. To really get a feel for it, we got to look at how it actually behaves out in the wild. Our sources pointed out a pretty common issue that users run into, so let's take a look at that.
So, this piece of feedback comes straight from a user on Reddit. What they found was that after a tunnel with a custom name ended, especially if it crashed or they had to kill it unexpectedly, that custom subdomain would get stuck. They couldn't just start a new tunnel and reuse it right away.
So what do? Well, the good news is there's an official fix. The recommended way to handle this is to log into the web dashboard where you can see all your active sessions. You just find the old, stale one and manually delete it. The team also says to make sure you keep the command line tool updated, since they're always pushing out improvements for this kind of thing.
All right, so with all of that in our back pocket, how does InstaTunnel really stack up against the big name in this space, ngrok? Let's put them side by side and see what's what.
When you look at the free tiers, the difference is, well, it's pretty massive. InstaTunnel gives you 24-hour sessions. That's long enough to fire it up and forget about it for the whole day, compared to just 2 hours on ngrok. Custom subdomains and password protection, they're included for free, while ngrok locks those behind a paywall. And you can run 3 tunnels at the same time versus just 1.
And that really brings us to the big picture question. When you can expose something running on your laptop to the entire world with a 2-letter command and do it securely and for free, what does local development even mean anymore? Tools like InstaTunnel are fundamentally changing the game, pointing to a future where that line between your machine and the cloud just might disappear altogether.